Okay, guys, I have 6 o'clock Apple time, so why don't we call this meeting to order, please? There's a few things to do. So, resolution to adopt the agenda.
So moved by myself, but second by Councillor Atkinson, that resolve that the agenda be adopted as amended. I did send a request out to see if I could add the 2 appointments for the CDC. That's okay, I'll pass that forward.
Sure, or we can do it in your committee report. Either one.
Oh yeah, I wasn't sure how to get it, because there's from understanding on the rules, we need to actually put forward a CDC appointment as amended.
Yeah, as amended.
So I'll just
Check that. What item number will that be? So
I guess it would come in my report.
okay.
You can do it, you can do it at the very end too, if you want.
Yeah. Is my work committee remote? Okay.
Alrighty.
General business.
Alrighty, so it's moved that we accept the, adopt the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Confirmation of the minutes.
Moved by myself and second by Councillor Atkinson, we resolve that the minutes of the regular council meeting and the committee of the whole meeting of March 8th, 2021 hereby be approved. All statutory declarations have been complied with.
Alrighty, question. All those in favor? Citizens period. Anything for the citizens just yet? Not yet? Okay. Keep moving right along. 6-1. Is there anything for public works?
Just 611.
Just 611? Okay. Snow removal agreement.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Lane, resolve the council authorize the mayor to sign the snow removal agreement with the government of Manitoba as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure for a term to expire May 1st, 2021.
May 1st, 2021.
Yeah, it's a back date.
Oh, okay.
We just want to get paid now.
We just want to get paid. All right. Alrighty, question? All those in favor? It's carried. Finance and payroll and accounts. Moved by myself, second by Councilor Atkinson, be resolved that council authorize the following accounts pay period number 6 in the amount of $95,094.15. Jail tax number 26075 to 26107, 26109 to 26111, and 26113 to 26130, amount of $114,853.50. EFTS in the amount of $120,518.72. All right, council's had a chance to look at the check register and the disbursement report. Is there any questions?
I had one question, just out of curiosity. AJ maintenance and supply, $4,300.
So there was a big cost there when the laundromat froze and we couldn't get it ourselves. They called in AJ's to bring in their equipment. They spent some time doing it, and ultimately they didn't get it unfrozen. That was the majority of this. They did do a little maintenance on our water treatment boiler, it looks like, and the compressor, the industrial air compressor in the garage.
So they do get that.
Yeah, they do, I think they do electrical, they do plumbing, they do all that stuff. So, and they work with the mines a lot, so a lot of this stuff comes down.
And then the other one that I had was at Clear Tech. I'm assuming that's like swimming pool stuff for $7,000. There's like $10,000 total back to back, commercial pool and Clear Tech Industries.
That's for the water treatment. For the chlorified, chlorine liquefied gas. Times 2. So that's liquid treatment.
Commercial pools, chemicals,
Commercial pool is chemicals. Pallet test tablets, red test tablets, alkalinity tablets, some kind of sensor. I thought you were going to bring up the quantities of the fine arts because it was a long grant.
Yeah, I figured it was
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? None? It's carried. Checks in conflict, 633. Moved by myself, second by Councilor Atkinson, be resolved, the council authorize the following accounts, general check number 26108, 26112, the amount of $988.45. Alrighty, question, all those in favor? Abstain? Carried. Accessibility plan.
Resolution number 2021-053, moved by myself, second by Councilor Forrester. Whereas the Accessible in Manitoba Act was passed in December of 2013, and municipalities are required to update their accessibility plan every 2 years. And whereas the basis of this act was to ensure that all persons with disabilities have equal access, resources within their own community, be identified, and removing potential barriers which would limit their participation in daily activities. Therefore, be resolved that Council approve the Town of the Paw Accessibility Plan for the year of 2021 and 2022.
Okay, and this is consistent with the new, or I guess it's not even new anymore, the provincial guidelines and requirements. Okay. Alrighty, question, all those in favor? It's carried. 6,
Oh my God, sorry. Moved by myself, second by Councilor Ward. Whereas the town of Spa received funding for materials credit for the Paul Airport to the Airports Capital Assistance Program, ACAP, in the amount of $112,600. And whereas an invitation to tender was sent to suppliers advertised on the town's website, Merck's and the Otasco Times for the supply and delivery of materials credit for the Paul Airport. And whereas only one bid was received, therefore be it resolved that council approve the bid submitted by ABBI Schmidt in the amount of $126,448, taxes included, and be it further resolved that council approve the excess amount of $13,848 to be expended from the airport reserve.
Alrighty, any questions? All those in favor? Transfer to water, transfer water. I should say. 635.
Resolution number 2021-055, moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Ward. Whereas in accordance with section 2522 of the Municipal Act of the town is permitted to transfer outstanding water to property taxes, and whereas notices will be sent out to tenants and property owners advising them that their water accounts will be added to their property taxes unless paid by April 30th, 2021. Therefore, be it resolved that council authorize outstanding water accounts to be transferred to property taxes and set out in Schedule A in the amount of $171,496.95 in accordance with section 2522 of the Municipal Act, if not paid by April 30th, 2021.
Okay, any questions?
I have one.
Sure.
Is this number higher than last year? No? Pretty similar?
It's pretty
201 last year. 201 last year? Thank you.
It doesn't vary, it kind of varies on that. It's pretty consistent.
Alrighty, question? All those in favor? It's carried. General business? Yes or no? Are we going to do his now?
Let's do this.
Okay.
So, resolution 2021-056, moved by myself, second by Councilor Atkins, resolved that council appoint Sean Nagy and Joe Cote to the Community Development Corporation Board as citizens at large for the term that expires August 1st, 2021. But just as a note, the actual term in the bylaw is the 12th. Can I change that? Just so it lines up with the rest of them?
If council's okay with that.
Is everybody okay with that? Yeah. So it's the 12th, just to line it up with everybody else. So, just as for everybody's information, we did advertise and try to find some people to join the CDC. These are two vacant positions that people have relinquished over the last few months. And we believe that these will be a good addition to our committee. It gives us some good diversity throughout the community and brings us some good new fresh ideas. So I would recommend that we approve these guys.
Journalists, comments, citizens, that's our
Citizens on the call?
Yep.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Thank you for keeping me on.
For some reason,
All right, question? All those in favor? It's carried. Okay, committee reports now. Museum board.
We had a meeting there, I think it was on the 10th, the minutes were all sent out. Just a couple of highlights, Shereen and museum director hired an assistant to get through to start documenting some of the collection. We're still looking for a curator. My last report, I think you, Mayor, I had actually it's not official yet in terms of getting news back. We did apply, and we think we may get a grant of $40,000, but we're still waiting to hear back. What I was correct in saying, which kind of goes to the fact I'm not sure how we have a grant for a project, we're not sure how much it's going to cost, but I guess we won't should dive into that, but we do not know how much the brick work will cost. And, we're still waiting to hear back from somebody who's qualified to come in and assess it. One of the things we did discuss about, which is I mean, it was a good talking points, and I did bring it up in some of our budget stuff before, is the building itself and what the board and Shereen are kind of are necessarily responsible for. And some of the things like, because again, it's one of the jewels of the town, so we're not going to see it like collapse. But there are some things within our building that I find are kind of beyond the purview of the museum director. And maybe in our budget, and I'm not suggesting we just cut out some of that, the yearly budget we give them, but like for snow clearing, some of the things for the air conditioning units. I know Chris has been around and helped out with some of these things, but I found the list kind of gets on and on, whether it's plumbing, whether it's this, whether it's that, and it's really on Shereen and the board to look after that. And it was brought up by one of the board members, and I think it's a valid point that, you know, we're giving them a budget and we're telling them now to spend their time securing a contractor for snow clearing, to secure someone to shovel the front and back steps. It kind of seems a little backwards if we talk about how important the building is, we show it off, but yet it's the museum director to do a lot of these things. So I don't have to discuss it now, but maybe some things to talk about when we're going over our budget. Whether we remove it and say, okay, well, this is your reduction in whatever, this amount, and we'll take care of these things in the future so you don't have to worry about it. I think it would be a headache that she would be like to see go away. And plus, nobody on that committee, nor Shereen, is an expert on air handling, is an expert on brickwork, is an expert on, I mean, we're obviously willing to help, but some of these things kind of just seem like, why are we, where's the line, right? Where's the line between it's a town building versus where's the line when it's their responsibility to take care of it? And I did tell them for sure, like, we're not going to, the building's not going to fall over, we care about it, but it's some good discussion and rules from that. So.
When we had a maintenance director, didn't he take care of that?
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff was taken care of. I think to some respect that, you know, there was still some issues as to what gets done, how it gets done, whether the capital stuff gets approved or not. Like there was some, but a lot of the little stuff I believe did get taken care of. I could be wrong, but whether it be snow clearing, shoveling, like, you know, there's an issue with the heat. Like that was the latest one, right? In February, they were out without heat, but the town workers went over there and fixed it. So, but that's only because she couldn't get a hold of the others. So I'm not saying it's not working and it's not there, but why not just call the town all the time to go to these things? I don't know. So,
Good point. Okay, Chamber of Commerce.
So there's a lot of things going on there. I'm just trying to give a few highlights. I believe the minutes get sent in, but I guess just as a note for everybody is as a membership update, which we just had a meeting last week on Tuesday. So out of 76 businesses that have been invoiced, we have 64 renewals and 10 are in the process of renewal. So it seems like we're making some good progress there. Sandra's doing a great job of reaching out to everybody and kind of, you know, moving people along, making sure that we're showing value in there. And then there's a few of the programs I think most people are seeing, that Shop Local program, and so that's week one's going on, and there's a lot of work going on provincially just to kind of support the whole communities in the north and try to get our communities opened up and stuff. But one thing that did come up last week, and I said I would bring it forward, was around the town platters and flowers and stuff. So I guess the question is, who's actually responsible for that? Is it a town responsibility? My comments to them at the meeting was, as long as I've been around a few years now, that it's always been kind of done by an outside group and the DMC kind of, but I don't know who's actually ultimately responsible.
When we get to the budget discussion, can we defer that one?
Absolutely, yeah, it's because it's just a question.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. CDC.
CDC again, Trevor, please jump in if I'm missing anything. Just a couple of notes. Once again, I guess in recognition to Jackie, she's doing a great job there. Tourism and place branding, so we're working on highlighting tourism in our area right now. So she's creating a one-pager to kind of show the benefits of the area. They've launched the social media platform, and they have a website or a content creator hired now. So they're working on creating the tourism website. So the planned launch on that is early April. And another good thing is that Jackie received $3,675 worth of marketing sponsor from Travel Manitoba for no cost this year, so which was great. On the general economic development, Jackie is participating as part of a group that they meet regularly on economic developers that are throughout the province. So it's been a great networking activity for her, and their next focus session is on the housing initiatives in April, so we'll look forward to see what comes out of that. They're also talking about creating a center for creative production to incorporate the players in the community under sort of one banner. So there's a discussion with UCN, North Forge, and the Arts Council. Under housing and land development, again, some good stuff coming here. Anhart's come back with a proposal, so she's just working on creating or working with them on the next step of creating a conditional contract. Also, MMF has reached out. They're interested in doing some development here, and also another developer that I can share in camera because it's very new has come forward, and they're looking for commercial and multifamily development. So Jackie is also reaching out right now to other CDC housing programs to see how we could actually do something different, or maybe there's a different way of getting some lots. Maybe Trevor, you want to kind of...
Yeah, I just asked her to reach out to some other CDCs so that ours could possibly get into developing one property, one house, kind of a scenario. For example, let's say this is going to be, if the CDC purchased the lot behind Slackline, purchased an RTM, brought it in, sold it. It's not the town, it's not the town involved, and we know that if we put it there, someone will buy it. Should CDC be involved in that? Is that something that we have all these contractors willing to do it? If that were the case, we wouldn't, but that's not the case, right? Those lots, I think, sometimes if you get a little traction, somebody sees something put up, then someone else might put something up. So, there's an opportunity there if the CDC can do it, and we're not looking to make money. We're basically looking to get it so someone buys it, so there's tax dollars coming in there. There may even be another idea we were thinking was two of the families or individuals who applied for the housing grant, they didn't get their house in time because it seemed like there was quite a few houses in the market, and then, not that there's none, but I think in their area of what they wanted to purchase, the quality, all that wasn't there. So maybe this would be something that, hey, I'll buy it. It's in my range, and they could purchase it. So there's opportunity there, and we're just trying to see how other CDCs fund it, because they do it. A lot of them do a lot bigger projects than a single family home as well. So anything we can do, kind of small project again, to get things rolling, we're looking into it. And on that too, another thing we were thinking of is if Anhart, for example, should happen to get this deal sealed, ask Jack to look into, do they do prefab single family homes? If they do, and they're coming up for one project, I'm sure it would be a big deal for them to bring up a prefab single family home and pop it down pretty easy. And then that might open the door for future developments in terms of
Yeah, so lots of work. I mean, obviously, before we would do anything, we would make sure that you guys are all obviously in the know. But there does seem to be a lot of activity going on, and I think there's some promise there. And then the last thing that we're kind of working on is creating that feasibility study to help with the cost analysis with regards to the new clinic. And I know, thanks to Mayor Hurd there, provided us some information last week or so, and we're making sure we include that in. But it's really trying to identify land and actually package up, create a little bit of a communication one-pager to sort of flyer the flag of the thought and area, and make sure that they know that we do have land available. There is spots in town that could be really beneficial for them, cost effective and all that sort of stuff. So, but again, it's new, and hopefully we'll have something on that ready to go in the next month or so.
Cool, thank you. Destination marketing.
Meeting scheduled for
Cedar Lake.
April 13th.
Next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Recycling board.
meeting scheduled for Thursday.
Library board.
It was scheduled for last week. Caitlin wasn't feeling well, so we rescheduled for, I believe, April 13th.
SCAD. There was a meeting Saturday, but I was out of town, so I couldn't attend. I think summer council did.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think that it was a good conversation. I believe there's some real big picture thinking that was done there when it comes to integrated centers with mental health, counseling, addictions, sort of businesses or services kind of under one roof. Yes, I think everybody refers back to the, Gary, you guys can jump in, but everybody refers back to the Medicine Hat visit or the Moose Gun visit or whoever that was, and that's exactly what they had to make a big difference. It wasn't, I don't think this is going to happen if we get 3 volunteers to come to the homeless shelter. It's going to take more than that. But there was lots of good ideas.
There were about 25,
Yeah.
26 people on the call. One thing that Brent did point out, though, is by the end of May, we will have 7 more members in town, which will bring us up to 26 or 27. So that was something else that was noteworthy, and they would be for town of the Pause on. They spoke a little bit about the transition as well. But that was really
Is it the transition to OCN would be complete April 1st? They told us that their office is ready, the OCN office is ready for the First Nations policing. It's all cleaned up, and there's no RCMP people in that building, and there's no RCMP delays for them to go forward. They said it may take a couple of days past April 1st, but that was actually the target.
I'll probably come off as being negative here, but I haven't been at the last couple of SCAD meetings. And I got the goals notes there from a couple of people as to, and I think those are good ideas, but would the ideas all come cost? Is there any like a plan as to how to? I will come off negative, right? I can tell you what's needed, but in a dream, and then but that dream has a cost of millions upon millions of, and like for example, like up on a school level, we can't find healthcare workers to come into a school level. These are people that are willing to show up to the meeting and meet, have appointments, and there's a shortage. So, is there any cost?
It seemed like, Trevor, that there was some talk about a joint lobbying group. So, we know Mayor Herb is lobbying continuously, but, it seemed like there was discussion that there needs to be just more than one person going with banging the drum. Mental health needs to be on board, RHA needs to be on board, MK
not saying pull the pin or not. All I'm saying is that at some point in time, it's no different than the clinic, right? Or the hospital. Okay, just give me the bad news now and tell me that you're not getting a dime so that we can stop wasting your time thinking that we're going to get something or we're not. So it's kind of, you know, because we can all have these great hopes and have these plans. And I mean, I'm not saying scans are going on for 10 years. I know it hasn't, but I think there's good stuff. But I just kind of, you know, they're just going to wonder what the
Oh, you're absolutely right.
like, and again, no offense against Brent, but I guess that's the other, you know, he's running the RCMP in town. So is it everybody's responsibility to, I don't know, if you don't have a person leading the charge and saying, okay, how do we lobby all these people together at the same time? Here's our idea, who's gonna, like, who's doing that?
Yeah, and I think that's what's coming out of it.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's what's going to come.
I feel your frustration.
No, I just think, I think it's great news, it's great stuff, and I think all these great ideas, I just,
But you're right, Trevor, sooner or later you gotta throw the top.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Kelsey Planning District meeting on Wednesday. KSD committee?
No meetings.
No meetings. Okay, correspondence, I don't know of any, municipal relations, letter, actually.
Yeah, just for information for you guys talking about the plan to roll it out in a few different ways. As you guys know, they're going to be using the arena here for the determinable amount of time, you know, a couple days a week. Please call in and make your appointments. They're setting the 8 hours.
Vaccine start on Wednesday.
Starts on Wednesday.
Alrighty, citizens query, anything else? Nothing else? No? Okay, committee of the whole, public works and maintenance.
Nothing.
Garbage collection at landfill?
We're still waiting back for a quote on these guys and a time frame in terms of the work. They started suggesting the work's probably going to be done mostly in the summer. When it's thawed. We were looking at things like getting an aerial drone in to scan all of this stuff. Chris and Sam are still working out the details. They've got another call scheduled that they have on today and tomorrow. So hopefully we have that information.
Just some positive feedback. I did get some feedback today at my workplace where they seen somebody walking around town picking up garbage from downtown. So great. No, I mean, it is great stuff. It's good to see that proactive stuff, and it's nice that people recognize it. So if we can get more of that happening, better.
I saw it today as well. It's the crew that does the parks in the summertime.
It's the maintenance group. The arena's down, so they're
No, that's great. I mean, it's nice to hear, and like I said, somebody brought it to my attention. So
and all sorts of stuff that's coming out of the ice and snow. So it's around and around.
Refurbished parks.
Nothing new on that end. Just I left the map on there just for you guys, and we'll get working when I have some more information.
I got an infrastructure plan.
I do have some information there. I've been talking to Jackie. I guess our application came back. They did a little bit of modifying, went back out again. It went through a first level review. Things look positive, so we're waiting to hear back at the next level.
I noticed on the budget we have, and maybe we'll talk about it then, a $250,000 expense to do infrastructure planning.
Correct. Different. That's for a detailed design on whatever road we decide to do.
Planning and development. Okay, public hearing, 209 Fisher Avenue, notice of variation application.
So there will be a public hearing for 26, 2021, variance application with regard to 209 Fisher Avenue. Resource Center wants to open as a private club. They're going to change their the way they're identifying themselves to fit under the zoning bylaw, but they don't meet all the requirements. So to get approval for this, they need to
I mean, like, what is that, like a bar?
No, they're going to use it for what you would expect the Family Resource Center to use it. I think it's originally supposed to be a youth center, right, or something like that for youth activities, but it didn't fit within our parameters. It still does fit as a private club.
It's gonna operate the exact same way.
They're operating the same way as it's calling us, just some places that are going on.
I thought when we talked about this a number of months back, that with the new Kelsey planning district, this would just get absorbed in there anyway.
The issue is the yard requirements. So they're going to be, I think that, I don't know what the bylaw states, but this will be reducing the side yard requirements.
Where is 206 or 209?
You know, right by Purchase Pizza?
Oh, yeah,
It has no front.
it doesn't have no yard.
There's no yard.
Yeah.
Inside.
And that's
Okay, I
why.
thought it was the other side,
No.
like by the tri-family. I had the wrong building.
So they're not open to the public for a youth center?
That's what they want. They want it to be open as a youth center, to use it as a youth center.
But the use isn't being discussed, the use is permitted within the new zoning bylaw, so it won't be, the discussion won't be the use, the discussion will be the yardage, that the building fits within the bylaw.
Okay, so there's a hearing. Coming.
Can I just ask one more question, because I'm a bit confused? So what do you mean by that, Jen? Like, explain that to me again?
In the zoning bylaw, you have permitted uses, and within that, there's bulk requirements. The permitted uses is what the building's being used for, the organization or what it's going to be used for. The bulk requirements are, if it's going to be used as a group home, say, the side yards, the backyard, the front yard, they all have specific requirements. In this one, they don't meet the specific requirements, so they're asking for a variation.
So they're asking for a variation to run a youth center?
No, they're not asking for variation to run a new center. They're asking for a variation where it says that required.
If they would have had a bigger lot, they wouldn't need to ask for permission, they could just do it.
Oh, okay.
But because they have a smaller lot, they have to get permission to be able to use that smaller lot for an accepted use. Makes sense?
Yeah.
On the hearing.
I'm sorry, I'm unclear. Okay, no, I'm good. Sorry.
Okay.
If it's a private club, but then you get the variation put through, and then you open it still as a youth center, so to speak, then it's no longer private, right?
A youth center is considered a private club.
Oh, is it?
In accordance, I went through the planning branch with the province, and they can call it a private club and use it as a youth center. Because
Okay.
it's going to be private and only open to the youth.
Okay.
They'll have to sign in, sign out.
Okay. That makes sense. I just,
Yep.
when it's private club, I'm thinking, well, how do you access it if you're
Yep.
the public use?
All these rules are so perfect now.
It's covered.
Yeah. Somebody's employed over this.
It's covered. Okay, finance and admin. So now we're talking about the budget.
We're talking about the budget. I sent out a revised draft of the budget, notes, email, just kind of explain some highlights for you guys. That's all.
So to kick off the discussion, I have a couple things I'd like to point out. They're both budget related, if I could. So the first thing I would like to speak about is the Accommodation Tax Bylaw. As council knows, there's approximately $225,000 reserved for use in the community. At this time, the funds are dispersed via the Destination Marketing Committee. The DMC, as it is known as a committee of council, I'm recommending the following changes, and you don't need to change the bylaw to do this. First, I plan to bring forward a resolution to our next council meeting to dissolve the current makeup of the committee with thanks from the town for their past service. Secondly, I plan to bring forward a resolution to our next council meeting appointing a representative from Kelsey Rec, Town of Lavoi Engineering Maintenance, and a council member to assume the duties of the DMC. The choice for these people would be for somewhat obvious reasons. Kelsey Rec has shown good initiative recently and a genuine interest in improving the quality of life of all our residents. Engineering maintenance plays an important role in maintaining our community. It should be part of the discussion. A council rep would be the voice of council and the community as an elected representative. I'm also recommending the council support the following initiative that our council rep could take to the new DMC. Of the approximately $225,000 in reserve, I'm recommending that $100,000 go to the PAW families building a better community to be used in completion of the skate park that's being proposed. $50,000 goes towards the lighting of the ball diamond, as per the idea presented by Kelsey Reck and the Paw Slow Pitch League. $50,000 go towards community pride projects, such as maintaining the murals located throughout the community, continuing with the Christmas lighting, flowers and such in the summer, other items such as banners, lampposts, and so on. The balance, approximately $25,000, will go towards new playground equipment. These are all very worthwhile community projects that will have a lasting impact on improving the quality of life of our residents at a time when community spirit is being challenged. After this initial push is underway, the new DMC would set about the next year's goals early enough in the year to carry on. The ongoing funding should be in the $35,000 range, depending on the economy, and then the committee would know that it would have that money to invest every year into community pride projects. By having staff and council take on this role, there would be certainty and clarity that the project would move forward every year. Some of the confusion as it relates to the flower pot question would be settled by this new DMC committee. Bringing it up in budget, because obviously they're all budget items, and we have the money in the kitty. And I would like to really see these 3 or 4 projects finish in our term. And I think we could say that we helped get something done. Any discussion?
To be clear,
Yes.
you started off by saying that the DMC would dissolve, so the existing DMC would no longer exist, but it would be represented by 3 people,
Yes.
one from Kelsey Rec, one from engineering, and a counselor,
Yes.
to be clear.
Yep.
So do those, does that group now take direction from the council?
The new DMC, council would have a say, right? So council would have a say in that would be our representative. Similar to what we have now with Chapter. And the Kelsey Rec, like there's a thing on the lighting that they've been working out, so they're coming up with some great ideas. That in the ice parade thing at the back there where people are skating. A lot of the things that the DMC has done have a recreation community service slant to them. Public Works should be involved because, you know, putting up Christmas lights and maintaining flower pots or whatever it might be could fall under the maintenance department. Carrie wants to upgrade the parks, and here's room to buy some equipment. And all of this would cost the taxpayer nothing.
So you said at the beginning, you would not have to change the bylaw?
No.
So currently, without, going on right now, don't they, you wouldn't have to change the bylaw?
It just says represented by a DMC board chosen by council.
So how do you change that whole, I thought we didn't have the ability to just shut that down. I guess
Well, he's not shutting it
Not
down,
shutting it
he's
down.
just changing the members of the board.
But do we have the authority to do that?
Yes.
Yes, by resolution.
Yes, we do. They're a committee of council, appointed by council, and council has the authority to change the committee.
So today on that committee, there's Lily, Noel, Chad, Kelsey,
Andrew,
Adam.
Andrew Esson, is that taken up?
Oh, okay.
So as it stands, like I will bring a resolution forward to the next council meeting in 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, whenever the next council meeting is. And that would be my intention.
So would there be opportunities still to accept? I want a basketball team to come tournament. So those types of things, there's going to be opportunities to any Joe citizen to put in an application to go for funding, or is it just whatever ideas that new committee decides to do it?
Yes. My thoughts would be the new DMC committee would be comprised of those three organizations that I mentioned. And if your basketball team wanted to apply to the DMC for funding, they can apply to the DMC for funding. Right? It would still meet the criteria.
So I don't necessarily disagree with the idea, but I thought under the terms that were laid out from the ombudsman report that came out was that it was supposed to be a granting committee and not a funding, strictly funding committee.
It's still a granting committee.
But it's the way the new bylaw, that was before this bylaw was in effect. There was two accommodation tax bylaws,
Yeah, no,
and the second one changed that,
okay,
so it doesn't have to be a grant.
okay.
It's still a granting committee.
It can be, yeah, I see what you're saying, but just,
I guess, there's terms of reference that were created, or that were ratified. So I guess the other side of this is council ratified the terms that are currently in place, and this would, I guess, we'd like to change that again, but there's nothing really in place right now as you're discussing it.
Yeah. Well, and it's important that that money gets spent. That money is meant to be spent. It's not to be saved. Initially, when the bylaw first came into place, half the accommodation money went into the DMC, and then previous council revised it and cut it down to 25%. And that's why the contributions annually have been reducing from, that's how it got so big. And over the course of the last year, and I know COVID has been an issue, but there's been very, very little activity on the part of the CDC to grant money. And I understand that with COVID, that there hasn't been as many activities, but there was very, very little last year. So, these four projects that I mentioned, the fellows building the skate park have been working very hard on that. The baseball diamond lighting is something that Danny Halpin has mentioned a few times. The community pride products, well, we're talking about that already, right? Because as it is right now, the town of the Pas, we do a very poor job of taking care of our pride projects, for lack of a better phrase. The murals are probably 10 years old.
Just about 10 years old.
Must be 10 years old, and I don't think they've seen a paintbrush in 10 years. The banners are older. We chatted about that today. The trapper sign. The trapper sign is the poster child of us not taking care of our stuff, because it was abandoned not only by the town of the Pas, but by the Chamber of Commerce, and somehow or another I'm the new owner of it. And I'm not seeking funds to retrofit it, but it speaks to the fact that we don't take care of our stuff. The Skippy L, story there, right? So if this three-person committee representing, the three organizations knew that they had $35,000 or $40,000 a year to carry on working and taking care of our stuff, what's wrong with that?
I was just going to add something, because you kind of told me your idea before and a little more. If you're planning on having something to recreation on this committee, I don't know that you would want to have that same 50-25 split. Back to 50-50. They have representation.
Well, that would require changing the bylaw.
They would. Just in big picture,
Yeah.
maybe that's something you want to go with. This is a good idea for you guys.
And that would be something to discuss later on. Right now, I would like to support these four projects. I'd love to see them off the ground, completed and finished before next October when the next group come in. And we can look back and say we actually got something done.
This still allows the DMC to fund or grant projects that will bring people into the community.
They can make application to the new committee. Yep. Lots of thinking going on. Yeah, I can hear it.
I said, no, not like the idea, I'm not smart like these guys, I usually need a little soap time.
you smell smoke.
Yeah, kids see it too.
Okay, so a resolution will come forward to the next council meeting, and we'll have a chance to talk about it, debate it, and vote on it.
So does it change anything if we were asking them to put those 4 things or 5 things in? I guess if say it went forward that way, so somebody like if Chad's on that, he would put in the grant application? Or would we direct the funding?
We would say that council, if it's Chad or Carrie or whoever it might be, the council would like to proceed with these 4 projects. And, you know, the other 2 committee members could theoretically outvote them, right? And then the idea is done.
Do we know if there are, you would know, are there grants that are possibly getting ready to go out?
Yeah, we're meeting on one on Wednesday.
When was your last meeting?
2 weeks.
Is it minutes?
They would be coming to the only thing that we discussed at the previous meeting was the new terms of reference for the.
You didn't discuss the grants?
No. No, they were discussed.
So technically, there's no grants pending.
No, but that's what.
I think there's one.
It's on our agenda.
So there's one for discussion.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not significant.
Okay.
Are you on TFC as well?
No, but I know where the grant's coming from.
Oh,
Because I thought I just meant.
Okay. Okay, the other one I want to print to talk about is economic development. During the past year, we've seen success from the CBC with the addition of Jackie, the coordinator. At this time, the town contributes about $100,000 approximately annually to the cause. Some of the money is diverted from the accommodation fee and some is covered by taxes. I would like to suggest that we commit $1 million to economic development. This is approximately $240,000. Close to it. This would allow us to hire at least 1 more person and provide some operational funds. There are many economic challenges all around us at this time, and we need to start becoming more proactive. It was just a few years ago we were concerned about the closing of the mill and the impact it was going to have on us. Since then, in my opinion, we've gotten complacent once again. The most recent announcement of Fairfax Financial pulling out of the Bay Line is a concern to me and should be to all of us. Some would say the opportunity for local ownership is one we've never had before, but in my opinion, significant capital investment is going to be required from the federal government to make this a success, and hopefully that materializes. With the completion of the Kelsey Planning District, the new zoning bylaw, and other plans that are being discussed, there will be more than enough work for 1 person, and it would be very beneficial to our community to have at least 2 people working full-time on economic development in our region. I'm confident that the Arm of Kelsey will participate in the financial contribution as well. The increase to $1 million would be about a $500,000 increase to the ratepayers. The money that is being diverted already would continue to be diverted to the cause. On a $12 million budget, the amount allocated to economic development from the ratepayer would be less than approximately 1%. You're doing a good job and you need more money. And again, even if council were to approve this theoretically tonight, we would be hard pressed to have the new person in place by the fall.
Certainly something I think we have to move forward with.
Time's a wasted, Larry. So, you can take that under consideration while we talk about the rest of Graham's goodies and see where we fare at the end. Any discussions on the idea? Carrie, you look perplexed.
I'm just thinking so hard right now.
Unusual?
No, actually, it's not unusual. I'm just thinking that maybe I should have asked the question a while back, because all of a sudden it's just, here we go. Here we go.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Here we go.
Here we go.
Okay, so other pertinent information here, I guess, in terms of the budget, I know you guys have had a chance to look at it. I did want to talk a little bit about how the museum board is trying to carry forward their surplus from last year as operating funds or capital funds. I don't think that's appropriate. As an arm of the town, any surplus funds are taxpayer money, and I know should go back and continue in terms of how we manage this. Ultimately, that the updated $193,000 surplus would be about half if we were to carry forward the surplus. Right?
How did they achieve their surplus?
It's just less cost, right? They were closed for a lot of the year. We didn't fill the curator position when it was vacated because there was a closure. So I mean, ultimately, it's our funds that are being spent, which I think should return to us.
Can those funds be converted over to capital expenditure to for the brickwork or something?
Well, it absolutely could be converted to whatever council decides. However, it will have a negative impact on our surplus.
Oh, so what you're saying is that if we bring that money back into our budget, then we will have.
Well, right now, based on kind of where we were at when I drafted these on Friday, we had $193,000 surplus for 2020. If they carry forward their surplus, their portion of the surplus, this will be about half.
Okay.
And final adjustments to come.
So by moving that money back into our budget, then
What's in our budget now?
within, yeah.
And if we consider it something that they are allowed to keep in their silo, it's going to hurt the town. Now, they did include it, most of the money was listed as capital items, but it didn't tie back to their capital at the time. But, I mean, ultimately, I know they can spend the money, that's not the issue. It's, I think I would like to see it come back in, just because I just don't think that's appropriate. It was budget as operating funds, it should come back as operating funds as part of the town's general operating.
So having said that, and then having just listened to Mayor Hurd talk about extending extra money to the CDC, how does that play with our surplus or whatever? Like,
Well, you're talking about the next year, right?
You're right.
So it's unrelated.
oh, okay, good. No,
Yeah, ultimately, if there's some big adjustment we missed and we pull a deficit and we drop it to 193 and we go on the other side, then we'll be forced to recover. But I don't see that happening. I think we're getting too close to where we're going to be.
so at the present time then, are you saying that we would have no meal increase to our taxpayers this year?
No, that's not what I'm saying. We had two. It was two.
Two, right?
Yeah. So unrelated again. If right now I'm saying we have a surplus last year, we have a general operating deficit, which means that the operating fund owes money to the reserve fund.
Okay.
And having surplus benefits us, right? It starts to line that back up close to that line again. But it's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I was sure we could say that. So, and the other thing is, I don't mind having, I run out of time. I was kind of hoping that I could bring Shireen into, or the board to talk about their budget. Just didn't have enough time this week. If that's something you want to talk about next week, then we're going to do that. I don't think there's anything else really that jumps out at me from their budget. And I feel like they're just under the department of the town, so to speak. I would like to see that council has to approve the budget from the board, and I feel like that's an item to come up.
My iPad's giving me grief. How much of a surplus do they have?
They've got, at the time, they have a $77,000 surplus. It's actually a little higher. We're doing something else.
And it's because of the staff.
Yeah, it's staff decreases. There's about $20,000 of savings on just wages. And then the benefits as well brings that up a little bit more. There's some outside contracts that they save money on $50,000. Some of the programming dollars and that's where a lot of the money comes. Some of the maintenance was down, all tied to their new clothes, right?
And they had some additional grants.
There was some additional grants, and most of that money they had a carryover, so that's something.
How much were the grants?
Well, the federal grant was $21,000 higher than what they had anticipated, so they got 42, and the budget was 21.
They do have a carryover.
Was that a carry forward? And then their provincial grant was $9,000 higher, so there's 30,000 of their surplus.
But I mean, looking at their overall money, and we give them $164,000, and if you rough add up the rest of what they have there, everything else is 50. I mean, all the power right? She has a really good chasing all these grants. She's very successful, and running these additional programs.
So for this year, Trevor talked about the brickwork, right? We've talked about the brickwork for a while, but it is our building, and it's the star of the region. Could we not just move that surplus into their capital to help fix the building?
Well, you could, but it would hurt the town.
Well, not really. We're all in this together, Graham. I've been hearing that for a year now.
I mean, ultimately, what I would be more comfortable with is, there is some money in the reserve for the museum. There is money in some other funds that could be applicable to this in the town's coffers. If this project does materialize and at the scope that we think it's going to be, there will be an opportunity for this project to come forward, and there will be funds available potentially for that kind of a project anywhere. I don't know that it's necessary that we try and silo this whole shuffle.
But if we theoretically put that 50,000 into capital, that should cover our commitment to the repair costs?
It depends on how much grant they get.
But then we're done then, right? Theoretically. It's money already budgeted.
Well,
We're just moving.
What if that project never materializes?
It's going to materialize. That brick is going to need to be repaired.
You won't be able to stand years.
But then we're going to be much more significant cost than just the portion we're allocating.
I don't know, what's council think?
That's a deal.
I'd like to see the money go over to capital to get the brickwork done, because, and the thing of it is that brickwork, if you don't look after it in the next year or so, and then you go to 3 or 4 years down the road, it's going to be like horrendously expensive to redo, and could jeopardize part of the building. So that's what I would like to see.
Carrie? Here we go.
Nobody's ever came and looked, have they? Nobody has been found to come and actually assess it.
Well, I think they know it's going to need repair.
Right.
It's been assessed. They had a report done on
Somebody
it.
did actually?
Yep, there was actually a report done on it, but now they haven't had anybody quote on the work to do it.
Okay, that's what it's been then.
Yeah.
There hasn't been someone who can actually come and do the repair.
That's way in.
Okay. So really, you have no idea what it's gonna cost. Like, no idea. Yeah.
I'm looking to buy a new truck, I'm gonna guess it's gonna cost me $70,000.
101.
Good.
Got a better chance of trying to ballpark that than repairing brickwork, though.
Yeah, because in all likelihood, the repair would be for sure not local and maybe out of province. I just think if we have the 50, and we can put it into the reserve, and that when Trevor comes back, we can tell him, we set the money aside, since he was asking about it. It's done.
So how is it going to, how bad will it hurt the town?
Well, it's going to affect us by, in 20. If we were to pull that out, we gain back a third of a million. budget is 12.2.
12.2, so 1% is 120 grand. So, you know, the 50,000 is what? 0.4% of a mill?
Ultimately, I guess the other issue here you guys got to consider is if we are going to allocate this, you can allocate it to the reserve. You know, there's no guarantee that it's going to be spent for the purposes of the project. You know, ultimately, under your term agreement, once that expires, that money's been in the reserve to be used for something else, right? So, if we move away from the board's control in terms of the building and things building related, that would be probably a strike of confidence in this direction. But they've been pushing really hard for things that our maintenance department doesn't agree with in the past. So, I really like that.
It just seems kind of punitive to me to take the money from them because they showed the initiative to write to the feds and get some money, and they got some money, and they have a surplus, and well, we want our money back. It's sort of not very encouraging.
I don't think that's the same thing. What the issue with this is, again, as a different department of the town, if we start siloing all the departments out, so, you know, your budget's your budget, and if you save money, you use it next year, it gets very complicated, and we're going to have problems in terms of deficits, right? Because different departments eat up the losses of others year to year, and you know, ultimately it's a balancing act.
Okay, let us ponder. What else you got?
So can I ask a quick question around this budget? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling with the way we're doing budget this year. Like, I feel that I don't have enough information. And the reason why is we don't really have any financial reports for the year. So I really have no calibration of where I am. But when I look at, when it says last year's budget, last year's actual, is last year's actual 2020? Is that the actual 10th year? Okay. And then this year's budget is 2021? And next year's budget is?
Yeah, I think ignore the next year's budget. It's based on prorations of the current year budget. It's going to be 2022. It won't.
So that's 2022.
Yeah, correct. But yeah, last year budget is 2020. Last year actual being the results we have to date for 2020.
So is that year that so that's actual end of year?
Correct. That's the numbers we have right now. Yeah. Mostly done. You know, there's a little bit tweaking here. Our audit obviously hasn't been started, so there's maybe some tweaking on that. Historically, there's been very little adjustments at the audit level since I did here. We're getting pretty close.
So when you see the gaps and the big numbers, where are they in the revenues and then expenses?
It varies. I mean, obviously, the provincial government kicked us some additional money last year. There's all the service revenues, so recreation, airport, things like that. We didn't, you know, based on the closures, based on the loss of just you know, the user fees. There's some pretty big holes there.
But I look at that we were $500,000 less revenue than our budget, and is that all based on recreation only?
So if you look at recreation, it's down about 50, but the airport,
Yeah, the airport
was fairly significant.
Yeah, 300,000.
The dump was down a little bit, the environmental health was down. Oh no, actually, I'm sorry. The airport was down significantly, actually. It was down from 1.2 estimate to 6, so there's almost, there's $600,000 down there. Recreation was down about another 3, so that almost eats up all of it. We actually turned out some higher accommodation tax than we thought.
What's that?
The accommodation tax, we actually almost doubled what our conservative estimate was last year.
Why is that?
It wasn't that different from the previous years.
It wasn't as bad as we thought.
That is we thought, we still have lots of traffic, so good to see.
At the airport fluctuates.
The airport
Like
does
you're
fluctuate.
taking that from a high one year with water bombers and everything else. This year was not easy.
I try to level it from year to year.
And then like this coming year could be an exceptional fire season and it could go back up again.
It could be. One of the problems that we had losses in things like landing fees, head taxes, fueling costs.
That's understandable.
And those ones, They tend to be a little more consistent. Usually I budget for somewhere between or just over our usual, and then when we have those boom years, it's in excess. Because they're not really, I would want to plan on budgeting for a person buyer. But the airport is a little bit challenging.
So under the, just some questions here, so I'm assuming that general administration is based on just being short a CFO line.
Yeah, well, it's only 2 roles for the whole year, so you save about $100,000.
What is office again?
Stationery, postage, every little thing along their lines, small office supplies where they are. I can pull you the list for and send it to you. I don't.
Just curious, Graham, because I don't know, I don't have.
No, for sure. The telephones, the postage, the fax machine, there's some advertising costs in there, we have some insurance on this building.
What is that?
Looks like about 3,000 a year. The telephone was about one.
3,000 a year?
Yeah, I might have. Oh, sorry, no, I'm wrong. The insurance on this building is 7,000 a year. I think that insurance number is related to just liability insurance.
7 is still a
It's
little.
cheap, yeah.
Well, and that doesn't include council liability, because that's somewhere else.
Well, that better be high.
The equipment, or sorry, the telephone was about 22,000, postage was about 15, the fax machine was about 1,600, advertising was about 12,000. Insurance and 3, other material and supply was about 4. Some equipment repairs and maintenance, I'm not actually sure what that is. I think that ties to like our internet and some other stuff like that. That was about 20. It also includes our software for our lab, which is about 20,000 a year. Stationery of 6. Some rental equipment, I think the 50 bonus machine and stuff. Printers, it's about 10, so that's how that adds up.
General government sundry.
It's a lot of things. That one I would have to pull for you. It's a conglomeration of things. The one that boosts it up and makes it look higher is the contractor cost related to that urban policing project. That's where it gets done.
Urban what?
That urban policing, what Karen Dreger does for us, where it's a grant. It's included in our federal grants, but it all comes out through there. There is a few other things. The Civic Center is, the costs are there. That eats up some of it as well.
And the big reduction is because that contract's ending?
Correct.
Okay.
That's all the Civic Center stuff, which is done. The insurance, the cleaning, the tools, the R&M, insurance.
So what is other under emergency services?
I'm sorry?
Under emergency services?
That is our fee for the 911 we pay to Brandon. It's about 30,000 a year.
And what is animal pest control?
So the animal pest control, that's our dog catcher and related expenses.
So why is it down so much versus our budget?
We had a couple of things in there that we had planned to do. We had planned to talk about doing commissionaires, which were going to be half split between doing some of the animal control, half split between doing the bylaws. So both of them were actually up a little bit. And then we didn't do those things because we wanted to do something else.
So that's all labor?
Well, it would have been probably contract fees for the commissionaires. And then there was also a grant for $6,000 to the animal rescue.
In there? So the grant comes out of there?
Yeah, I tried to move the grants around to what they actually apply to last year instead of just having them all under general. So like the grant to the recycling center is in waste control instead of general things.
And the operation of the pound is in here?
The operation of the pound is in here. Animal pest control.
So I'll ask the question labor costs exactly the same as they were from previous years, or is it up or down?
You mean like the union cost?
Or just
Well,
general?
we haven't done any raise yet this year.
Yeah, but do we have, is the head count the same, less?
It's about the same, yeah. There's probably a few missing bodies right now. Yeah, we're still deciding to do. It's about the same.
But in there is like, I see what operates like the labor part. It's like, has the overtime increased this year compared to last year?
It's about the same.
The percentages do.
It was like about the same, like, what's about the same time?
We have the
You
same
don't know.
people doing the same jobs and reporting very similar incomes year after year on the high end, like, so, the people doing overtime are few, and the people that, they all have reported into that, what used to be the 50 plus, the 75 plus that we're required to do, so, when you're looking at their T4s year to year, they're very similar.
But additional manning would reduce overtime, this is really emergency work, right?
It's usually emergency work, yeah, it's not something, and a lot of times what happens is they'll go into like a water break and it's an extra 4 hours to close it up, right? They're already there, they're already on site, having an extra guy probably
Well,
not.
yeah, that
help
makes
with
sense.
much. Most of our overtime is either driven by fire or by these water breaks and sewer collapses, things like that.
So in this budgeting, and I don't know, like I came from a different background and everything else, but is there ever a time in this that it's an emphasis put on the department managers to say, we want to see efficiencies, can you roll back 5% or something? Is there anything like that ever done?
Well,
Like, not that they have to, it's not a demand thing. It's a type of thing to say, can you run your operation?
I think that's a hard thing to do when you're talking about an essential service, because the demand creates the workload, right? So, there's a standard amount of work that we can budget for, but then when it comes to emergencies, we have
No, I understand that.
So the number of water breaks, how hard it is to deal with whatever the issues are, plays into whether we go over our budgets or not. Historically, we've been pretty good at maintaining those numbers. Obviously, the challenge comes with rising wages, rising
Well,
costs.
it's everything costs
With
7 to
everything.
12% more each year, so, like,
Usually, I know there's always that mentality that your government, you're trying to inflate your budget, and I do not do that. Most of my budgeting is based on the last 4 years' actions, and I try to be very conservative in terms of what I'm budgeting as those numbers, because I'm very cognizant that the end result here is taxpayer money.
Yeah, well, that's the same as us, I think, so that's kind of what I'm looking for too is, so where do we see the efficiency improvements on the return on investment projects or efforts to reduce overall costs without reducing services? So it's about this small investment, how does it save us in the long run, like the boiler?
Yeah, and that's something obviously I'm hoping we're going to push more and more of. And again, we're going to look at how this boiler plays out in terms of costs. We can get an analysis, and then hopefully that'll support us doing more of these projects in the future.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the lighting and all that kind of stuff, there's programs for that, but again, sort of, I don't know if this is what Bill was getting at, but even if you look at, how we do work, is there a way of getting more for less?
And again, I can't answer that. Obviously, I can't answer things like, where we see our overtime, sometimes it's out of our control. For example, the snow dump we got at the end of the year here, that resulted in much higher snow costs. This budget also includes, we did plan to do the road pavings last year out of the gas tax. We did significant sidewalk repairs last year as well, which ended up being a cost much higher than what we anticipated. So, in this case, it's just a reallocation from one line item to another. So the guys who do the sidewalks would have been doing something else instead, so they move back and forth. So it kind of looks dodgy on there sometimes where, sidewalks is 40,000 over budget, but then, you look at the next line, ditches are 40,000 under budget. So it's just where these same guys end up spending their time is where it's being quoted.
Yeah, so this is sort of like, I'm trying to figure this out here. So if I look under the airport where is that savings coming from?
The savings.
Yeah.
They typically have call-outs for late night flights. They usually have to come in to do additional clearing, things like that. So there is a significant staff savings, I think.
So that's that much, that is that. Page, I don't know about that.
No.
I actually had notes and I lost my other notes.
I think what used to happen there on there was that the flight was delayed, or something like delayed out of Winnipeg or
Yeah,
whatever.
but $200,000 a year.
But we also didn't sell as much fuel, so the revenues are lower, right? So on the expense side, we see that drop.
Oh, yeah.
But that we're not selling the fuel. So actually, it's actually worse because we had about $600,000 of revenue, or overall revenue, but only three on the.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, but that actually makes it, the revenue issue worse, not as bad.
Yeah,
Correct. So that makes sense. So just less fuel purchases.
so less fuel purchases was the biggest one.
Okay. Just I had a bunch of notes in my file. Other economic development budget expenditures. So we had 8562, now 109, 595. I'm assuming that's the CDC, right?
It's the CDC and Kelsey Plan.
Okay, so when we budget the CDC, the expense, do we show a line item in there for the office?
We do, but we show a related revenue as well.
Okay,
So
so
like
it's
it's a no cash transaction.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Correct. But so that'll have Jackie's wage in there for
Yeah.
benefits, and then there's an office as well, and the grant for that 10,000 extra cost, and then there's 4 or 5 for the Kelsey Plan.
So basically, in this year's budget, our local taxpayers should be happy.
No? You know, $1.5 million.
Oh, I know.
That's not.
You're not
But-
going to be.
But are they getting, they're going to get, for what we have here, very minor increase in terms of the mill rate, most of which is just a recovery of the 2019 deficit. The remainder is, driving costs. We have a 3% increase in hydro across the board that affects us significantly.
Is there a reduction in the school ask? The government was talking about.
I can't, I think it's on here on page 1.
Page one?
Yeah, just at the top there. So the overall, well, actually, it's almost the same. It's actually more.
Oh, no, it's less. It's like 14 point some mils or something. 14.23 or something.
I wonder if something didn't carry here, actually, on my budget.
I wrote it down, so I don't know.
Weren't they taking some of that off the property tax?
They did, yeah, they did. That would be on 3 point.
Well, they had a reduction of 2.3 or something.
3.42. Very normal. So they reduced their KSD was 0.06.
Yeah.
And so it did not make a significant change. The provincial government 0.02. That's big significant.
I think those changes were,
Yeah.
Next year?
Yeah, 2020.
you're talking about the report?
Yeah.
I think that's all.
That came out after they gave me their numbers, their stamped approved numbers. So I suspect that's maybe something for 2022.
So, yeah, we can just move down to the capital side there. On capital expenditures, so we bring those carry forwards over, just fine. But so say for an example, I'll pick on this fire truck again. So 350 on the fire truck, right? It says borne by reserves 350, right? But then if I go down and actually see the withdrawals, it says 360 to capital, and we only have 302 for.
At the end of the year, yeah. So,
Oh, so there's still,
so,
the balance is 302 at the end of the
so
year?
the balance at the end of December 2020 is 302. We've anticipated we're going to be drawing in about $100,000 of revenue in 2021. The cost of that fire truck won't come out until 2022 probably, right? So we're just, that'll be something to put in there. We go through the tender process. By the time it gets there, we'll have the funds in place to do that.
So what's the likelihood we're gonna get a fire truck for $360,000?
Unknown. I mean, we did go through the process of trying to get prices. That was about the range we came up with in terms of what.
I thought that was the low range. I thought the regular range was around 500.
Yeah, well, we put it at about what we thought we could afford, right?
So what happens though? We sit here next year and we say, well, the fire truck's 500,000. Now we are hands tied and we have to go with a $500,000 truck, or do we say?
Because this is going to be a tender. You have to go through the tender process regardless. You guys are going to have the final say yes and no. It's just going to be recommendations. All this means is it allows them to start the process, get a tender package together, put it out there, get bids.
So why wouldn't we why do we have to do that then? Why couldn't we just give direction to get a tender? And why would you have to take that 360 out? Why couldn't you just leave it in the actual reserve?
So you're wanting management to go get, to spend time and money and resources preparing a tender without approval from council. I guess that's the question. Right?
No, the question would be is, if council says, yeah, we should go and investigate a new fire truck, give us the idea of what it looks like, and go and do that.
We have to tender it, though. We have to, based on the price. So for us to tender, there's some work involved, right?
Yeah. But we just said that if it came back at 500, we could say no anyways.
Yeah. But this is just your approval saying that you start the process. So we'll see.
Just kind of showing that that amount of money is sitting there too.
We're acting in good faith on direction of council,
Yeah.
based on budget, right? So without that, I don't know why we would go ahead with any kind of planning on that, other than to. And we're never going to know like this true number without going through that tender process. Because they can tell us and send us those emails saying, rough quote is XX. But until we get that firm tender numbers, we're just guessing. Sometimes they come high, sometimes they come low. I mean, afterwards, sometimes nobody bids after they've given us quotes, which is actually mysterious.
It happens very often.
I guess, like I said, I mean, this is a little bit, I feel rushed this year on this, maybe because I just don't work in this law enough and I don't see the reports all the time on the top. But what I would like to see is that the departments do have some sort of cost savings, and not cost savings by saying cut people or stop services, but improvement plans to actually make them more efficient, more effective, and some sort of targets on that so that we know that we're always trying to get a little bit better.
Be happy to spend more time doing that as a investment myself.
Well, no. I mean, I don't know if it's your job to do that. It's maybe your job to direct that.
It's my job to provide direction. It's important to make sure that
Right.
they're getting it done.
Yeah, no, for sure. Does
I
that make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know what everybody else thinks, but that's just how I feel.
My question is, every year, operationally, we're towing the line, but are we adding or dropping any of the services that we currently provide? What are we doing that's different?
Nothing. In terms of, where we're talking about adding CSOs for half a year this year, recycling center costs are up, we're talking about parks repairs, there's a few extra things on the water and sewer side, operationally, pumps and stuff like that we need to repair. Revenues are expected to be lower again next year. I can't see, half a year in, recreation's not going to be lower, airport's going to be lower. As I'm talking about this, there is something that's going to come up a little bit later here, the Municipal Services Improvement Program. I'm sure we mentioned this before, but the provincial government was coming out with an option to have a funded consultant come in and take a look at any area of interest of the town, not the whole town.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Proposed it in the amalgamation meeting, but the other area I probably want to look at is recreation. That would be my suggestion. It's an area where you spend a lot of money, and it'd be interesting to know what we can do differently there. Just to gain, again, not to lose services, but to find out where those
not just recreation. So when you look at, like you said about, you know, it might seem minor, but is there a way to save chemicals on wind water treatment? Because looking at the budget, I think we spend over $400,000 a year on chemicals for water treatment. And there's lots of free programs. I know we use Suez, which is a huge company. Is there better chemicals? If there's anybody looking at that, is there any way that we could?
We are looking at that. Actually, coincidentally, we were just preparing a big document to look at an alternative chemical from clear tech. So it's something we do look at. We are looking at now. Maybe I'm not sure what that in the past has been, because I can't speak to the past. But there is certain things, obviously, we have to worry about in terms of what our license says, and you know, the chemicals are sometimes.
Oh, I mean, I get that, you know, I mean, but.
No, we are looking. Absolutely. I have the same goal as you. I would absolutely say that my goal is to find where these holes are to plug. An example of something on the minor side that happened in the last couple of years was we used to have contract waivers for the garage in the civic center. At one point we decided, why are we doing that? We have a recreation, and we pulled them over here, and it's been working just fine ever since.
Absolutely, I think that there was a discussion that was had for sure.
And on the other side, you know, we're talking about the museum. Potentially there is some crossover there where we could potentially, you know, use the same resources to provide a legal service and save some money. I'm always open to those ideas. We're always looking for them. In terms of having these guys come in and look at something, I know they want you know, a certain range of what they're going to look at. That aren't necessarily.
No, but I mean, even like work execution on in infrastructure. I mean, how we operate our.
No, just like we have to identify an area we're most interested in. I know we did that study of the engineering department a few years back.
Well, I don't know if I would call that a study.
Okay, again, I wasn't involved, so I know we did.
Well, I did that too.
So I thought maybe it'd be nice to spend some time and money on another area, but.
I'm not saying recreation is not important. I'm not saying you have to do all of this with an external consultant, but my take is, you know, what are we doing as a administration, council, management to just make our own areas a little bit better than yesterday? And I'm not saying we need to make these gigantic changes, but just even that little bit better is better than nothing.
I agree. I think this last year has been a lot of just keeping our head above water in terms of, you know, in terms of upper level staffing. And as we move forward, hopefully.
So, you know, if you think about chemicals alone, and I know I'm kind of stuck on this, and we talked about it a few times before, I mean, there's an overall cost, but there's a cost per unit. And it would be nice to see a trend on the cost per unit and to see if we've added more or less over the last number of years. And is there an opportunity for an upgrade at the water plant that's going to save you a certain amount of money if you have better controls? I'm not sure if we know that, right?
Well, you would get that in your water quality. Like, if the water quality is changing coming into the plant, and then your excess chemicals that you would have to use after is not. And that's the stuff that costs.
So how's Laura making out? Because she's a smart gal. No, she's here full time. Right. Last year we didn't have. We had some shortcomings. Going forward, some good ideas. You'll have someone here to help you.
Well, again, like I said, the plan with that boiler thing was, you know, we were going to have her monitor the new cost versus the old one, add in the factors like, you know, the hardship center's not paying us further directly. We have reduced staff time related to calling them again. So we're going to probably come up with month-over-month, year-over-year savings, and hopefully that supports kind of more of these projects when we start tackling more of these projects. I think that's probably her area where we can make the most. I absolutely agree with you.
Maybe a scorecard? Oh.
The recycling center. I'm sorry, where is it in here?
It's on page 5. No, sorry, page 4. It's got its own line under environmental services. It's recycling. And it's from 159,649 to 181,255.
My personal feeling is she has a surplus in her account, as I recall.
She does.
Yep. So, you know, if we're looking for money, I would much rather see that money go to the CDC Economic Development Office. I'd like to start investing in our future. Because I think if she has money in the bank, then it's incumbent upon her to use it before we give her more.
On the recycling center, is there any services that we offer her to help make that more efficient?
Free land.
No, I know, but no, I mean like on a technical front, like, is there anything like, has anybody did a time studies for her or, reviewed her processes and staffing and try to improve I don't know if there is, I don't know, I've never even been in the recycling center, but.
Well, the recycling centers, and again, maybe I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know enough history here. I just know the last couple of years I've been here, but it's always been treated as arm's length because it's a three-way partnership, right? So any decisions that should be made together in terms of other than funding.
Right, because technically it's not our
It's
facility.
not our.
Oh,
They have the ability to say, no, go away, just, you decide whether you want our service or not.
And the three communities just pay a portion as per the agreement.
Yeah, and my feeling is this community has some concerns about recycling that haven't quite been alleviated yet. And if they were running a deficit, I would be more prone to give them the money. But since they have money in the bank, and things are a little bit tight, once again, I would like to invest in our future.
One of the arguments she's made in the past is that, a fair argument, is that she uses her surplus to kind of carry her for months and months until the grant comes in later. Potentially we could always offer some kind of advance as opposed to that. That's kind of a concern.
Yes.
Feel like that's the way that we're gonna go. We're obligated to let the other member organization, or the other members to the recycling center know that we're planning on not forwarding funds this week.
Well, we're still forwarding funds.
In the regular
But not
month.
as much.
I think the board would have that obligation, but maybe not.
Who's our rep? So you can take the message.
Yeah, maybe,
You're on that board, Bob?
That's my recommendation.
So
Getting closer to my bill.
will that affect the town the same way as the museum? Like that $77,000 surplus that the museum has, would the recycling center fall in the same way as that?
Kind of. I mean, the recycling center is just asking for more money. The museum is asking to use a prior year surplus, which is just basically us shuffling money year to year. Again, the effect of pulling that surplus from the museum would be positive to the town as well.
But the only difference being we own the museum. We don't own the recycling center.
So just so I'm clear, I think I'm mentioning the vote here. So we're saying that we're going to forward the same amount of funds that we forwarded last year and not the increase, or we're going to forward, like, what amount, like,
I'm saying we forward the same amount as last year, not the increase.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay, no, just so I'm clear, because it sounded like we weren't going to forward anything.
No, I think it was,
Why, is that what you were proposing?
No.
The other thing I wanted to draw attention to that potentially is an area of fallback, I'm not sure how comfortable the rising police costs. We don't have any control over the police costs themselves. Something when I started doing this, and there was a study based on the potential bylaw for protective services, was that they suggested that we always increase our police costs year over year by 5% to anticipate the additional cost of RCMP. Year after year, it's come kind of a little bit under that, thankfully. This next year, there's been some verbiage from the RCMP in terms of unionization and potential pension costs coming in that may affect all the municipalities. So that number's up again for next year. I didn't increase it as much as I had previously, but I did still increase it. So potentially I can try and scale that back to tighten our belt there, just like try and toe that line, but I think it's an area where we only did it 45 minutes.
I know we lobbied against for a while, like like, where did that end up with now? I can't even remember.
Nothing?
I know it went nowhere, but
It's completely out of our control.
Yeah.
The province and the feds and A&M.
it was all based on that population number, right?
We took it back to
And
the.
we're like 100 and something away from that.
If we slip below 5,000, then it becomes a provincial policing expense.
Anything over 5,000, we pay 70%.
Yeah.
Do we know how much the police have invoiced OCN for the policing protection we've been covering?
We do not.
Be nice to know.
We can ask them.
Because it's money that's owed to the town.
I can ask.
Yeah.
Well, again, I suggest probably the way they're going to deal with this is they do their annual bill, their quarterly billings based on what they've anticipated for the year, and then they have a reconciliation later on that catches this stuff up.
But our budget is based on the anticipation.
Based
So
on the
if the actual is less than anticipated, I'm closer to my mill.
Yeah, potentially. I have a hard time believing that it's going to go backwards. They never do. But I'll ask them.
Well, we've been providing protection for, what's this, about 5 months now?
6 or 7.
Yeah.
Whether they'll answer that in a sense. If they don't, then hopefully it's reflected in our reconciliation.
They usually reconcile their first quarter, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, usually March,
May,
May,
June. When we get them.
when we get it, it's
The grants in lieu, I see a bit of a mess there. Her Majesty, which properties does Her Majesty have in town right now?
I'd have to look. There's, the courthouse, the
Post
jail.
office.
Highways is their little building. Not sure that we managed to Canada. That's not sure.
Where does the post office appear on here?
That might be part of that one, actually.
Her Majesty's?
It might be there. I would have to check.
Have we confirmed that?
I don't have that.
What she's got?
It's an unusual question.
Well, it's just you don't want to overlook any opportunity.
That building would be $2 million, is that not?
That might be a few buildings, though, and that might be included in there.
So who establishes the grant in lieu? Like,
Assessment service. I mean, whoever owns those, if you are a federal or provincial group, you fall under that grant and instead of taxes, this is exempt from taxes. But the amount paid is based on assessment, which is based on what assessment branches have.
okay. Just like you said, the highway's little building, but they got that whole yard.
What's MHRC?
The housing company.
Oh,
That must be all the Chelsea estates and stuff.
I think it's everything.
Freshwater fish marketing, why would they be granted?
I have no idea.
Privately owned.
Is it still, I heard that was done away with.
I still think it's ran by.
You know what I might see now? Yeah, I'm not sure.
At the end of the day, they're still paying the bill.
Yeah. Any other questions for tonight?
On the capital side, I guess, I did send out the stuff related to the lighting.
that's good.
What's that?
Those were good.
Any thoughts or comments other than what's on there? I mean, it's,
I think that's a great idea. It's barrier-free
Yeah.
sports.
I think it's great.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think it's good, well done.
We could actually market ourselves as a winter wonderland in that area.
And that turns out even more to the recreational public.
Yeah.
Community, and that's what it is.
it doubles up in the winter too with those lights on the path, you know, it's heavily used by the schools.
I can tell you, the guys piled a big snow in our front little cul-de-sac, and it's got so much use this year. We made a slide. Did John see our slide?
I tried to go there, and there was, I don't know, must have been at least 2,000 kids there.
2,000.
No, what it was, there was a bunch of kids there, and it was pretty cool.
Just think, once we got a skate park and a lit all night, how
Yeah.
much better it'll be.
No, for sure.
So I guess what I'd be looking at this point, I know you have a couple things coming in your next meetings still that may affect this, well, maybe not, I guess, some of them not. The mill rate related to the CBC plan is what's the direction for council? I mean, as time grows short here, we have another meeting, regular meeting to talk about this yet. But that's all we have scheduled. So if there's going to be additional meetings needed, we can have those. That's up to you guys. What do you want to see on this for next meeting? That's going to fine tune this to a level where you're like, okay, I see what we're doing here. And we can go forward.
I would like to see my bill in the CBC.
I mean,
And if we can get it from the recycling center and maybe the RCMP, we need to do something about the future.
So, I mean, broad strokes, this is probably fine. I can tell you what the difference would be in the mill rate for your little change. Is there anything else we want to consider here that is going to have a big effect, I guess is the next question. I'll tweak this to what I think, and then I'll include your thing as a side note. What else is going to
Yeah.
The museum stays as is because we're going to try to leave that alone. We'll carry forward with the capital, so I'll play that through. Well, and I mean, that's in there. I just want to know, I can change this, but then, again, there's more little changes. I just want to know what it is you guys are going to anticipate. Well, I want to anticipate that so we can kind of either nail this down next time or
And again, I appreciate the property taxes we pay. I pay enough property taxes too, right? Big picture thinking, right? If you put your big picture hat on, when you look at this document, we're doing an awful lot.
we do a lot.
And I don't mean just services, but we're also doing a new lagoon that's been dragging on for years. And the lagoon isn't impacting taxation. That's almost a miracle, right? So again, some people will have an issue with a mill or a mill and a half or 2 mills. But when you really look at what's going on, I encourage people to drive to Flin Flon and Thompson and have a look.
when I talk about the mill, like, I'm not against us changing taxes, but what I really would like to have is a really good storyline of like what benefits you're getting to them, because nothing's for free, right? And we need to make sure that we're doing the right things when we're making these changes and that we can live by it. And so, like, don't get me wrong, I don't think that that's a bad thing. It's just that let's just make sure that we are doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, and again, I agree. I think that we continue to work on those and continue to challenge all these items moving forward. In terms of how we look at the budget and how you guys have to weigh this, this is what we did year to year before. These are the things we've changed and we expect to see change. That's all you can really do if you're not changing other services. And then again, if you start making additional efficiency changes, they get factored in as we go.
And that's what I would like to see us also have, is that what other efficiency changes are we trying to do? And then there's an actual plan and some targets where, and I'm not saying, I'm not a big fan of just saying, come in and say everybody cut their budgets by 10%, but what type of things can we do to do things better so we get more, not less, or the same?
And again, I'm really hoping, because Laura's pretty smart, I'm really hoping that as she gets more grounded, she'll start doing that. Because I know from experience with her in the past, she questioned everything. So if she carries on with that.
Now, she should be here though, shouldn't she?
Well, the next meeting would be good if she comes, because I think we haven't even officially met her yet.
Yeah, I don't think she should be attending all the meetings.
No, but the next budget meeting.
Absolutely, she should come and meet you guys. And something else that we've been working on, I was hoping to bring her the first time, was we've been working on the financial that she can produce fairly regularly. So,
Judge just fell off his chair with
Hearing that for 6 years, that we were going to get a monthly financial report. Yeah, I did, and
yeah, so absolutely, I can ask her, if not next time, maybe the time after, we'll see what her schedule's like. But yeah, for sure. Any other questions on here? Any other direction? Really make this easier. I'm hoping this is my last budget I have to carry myself, and offload a lot of this on.
That's what I think it is important for her to hear the questions, I guess. I don't bring it back.
I will bring it back.
Again, it's more work for you.
It is, but I knew I was going to be carrying this one this year. It just was too close to it. It's not feasible.
And as she's going through this, it would really be nice to start these discussions in the fall. It would be really nice to start in the fall.
Well, 2020 was like...
Very much so, and I agree with that, right? Okay.
Good.
Okie dokie. Jeez, we still got stuff to talk about. Okay.
1032.
We're at
1032.
10:32. Speak
Oh,
time.
I'm not far enough down. Wow, these things are long. Oh, look at that, skate park. Do we want to talk about it, or have we covered it enough?
Well, we should see what they want or what they...
Sure.
Is that a letter requesting for assistance here? It doesn't define the amount of assistance.
How much money do they need to finish that project?
He told me with 100,000, he should be good to go. He said he has 150 in the bank, and they've got a few other large commitments coming in. It's about a $400,000 project, and he said if we can confirm 100, he should be good to go.
Do we have to get permission from Kelsey, or not Kelsey? Kelsey School Division to build in there, is that our law?
The land we gave them is behind the wellness center.
Yeah, okay, so
That's all right.
Now, if we wanted to build it where the current one is, that would work.
Yeah. I just remember in Kelsey School, they needed that big connection.
Okay, wow, okay, QB, request for support.
Yeah, so we did get communications from the president of the postal workers. They were looking for council resolution supporting their
Environmental.
their action plan in terms of providing additional services at the post office, banking services, things like that.
I thought that was also the charging station and all that stuff.
Yeah, they see themselves as being well placed to deliver a few other additional services. They have a plan to confront climate change, expanded services, financial institutions to be unbanked, and some other.
They can't even imagine what they call it.
Is this the union?
This is the union, and I thought it was an odd request from the union as well. Whether you guys agree or not.
We had a presentation on this by somebody, did we not?
yeah, Mark gave, I think it was you and I. I'm not sure who else was there.
So it's right in the resolution. They want trying to get high-speed internet, make it affordable to Canadians who don't have it, electrical vehicle charging stations, carbon neutral targets. They want to electrify their fleet.
talked about banking services and everything else and all that stuff, and saying that they had room to put this stuff in there, but obviously they don't, because all our mail goes to Flintlock.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is necessarily aimed at just local law. I think this is a Canada-wide, remote areas kind of thing. So.
I'd sooner send a letter to them to improve our mail service in town rather than worry about the electric cards.
Can we just take it as information?
Yeah, they will be looking for a response at some point.
But I guess what I don't connect, like, it's not that I don't disagree with the things they're saying would be nice to have, but I don't understand the connection to municipality.
They just want support.
They're just looking for support.
So
A resolution.
No, they're not asking for a letter, they're asking for a resolution.
They're looking for a resolution of support.
Resolution of support.
Oh.
Yeah, same thing, right? Just from council.
We just bring it forward as a resolution and vote on it.
Correct.
It'd be different if the mail service was really good right now, and they're able to keep up on everything, but asked to take on even more.
I don't even know if this has anything, this is such high level stuff, like it's.
The union is trying to create more jobs for their
Probably
union
not really
members.
union member.
And it references like 2050, you know, so
I think take
they're
it as
just looking for
information.
support.
I would suggest take it as information for right now.
Well, and I could respond and say that we just didn't feel like we had enough information to support it.
Yeah.
Cool. 10.3.4.
The electronic signature. So we talked about it last time. The reason we're bringing it up again, we did decide to test it in the organizational bylaw, not the procedural one, but there was potentially an issue with the summertime. There's only one meeting between the summer months for council. We can try it out. Just so you're aware that it may result in a complication, and we'll deal with it later.
Resolution coming.
Resolution coming. If you're good with that.
10.3.5.
Yeah, so we talked about this. There's a municipal delivery improvement program. There's an application form. They're looking at us trying to identify an area we want them to look at. Again, we can shoot for the stars and ask them to look at our whole organization, but I suspect they're looking for something more specific. Whether it be transportation, whether it be public works,
Maybe general government.
Yeah, that's fine. So public works is kind of where we feel it. So is council in favor of us getting this service? I mean, it's a free service.
Yeah,
I can't see a loss.
Free works.
So there'll be a resolution to come pass.
Okay. That's it.
That's it for the
We do have a couple of things for in-camera guys. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Rob.
So what's the headline? Taxes going up, town wants to steal museum's money?
Shut down the DMC. Take away from recycling.
We're all going skateboarding.
Well, fine, tomorrow we'll discuss good.
Taxes hitting the roof, new skate park.
Sorry, losing.
It's also this is the in-camera portion of the committee of the whole with mayor takes in the chair to discuss matters requiring our attention.
Let us know when you're ready,